Hey y'all, today we're gonna make a delicious jollof couscous. I'm gonna teach you how to make this as well as some beef and some vegetables. This is an easy meal that is super yummy. Let's go ahead and get cooking. Now I'm gonna be using 2 pounds of a boneless beef chuck roast, and I got this because it's a fatty piece of meat which is gonna keep it tender and juicy, and I'm gonna cut this into large chunks. I don't want them to be too small because they will shrink as they pressure cook. I'm going to season this with salt, pepper, onion powder, curry powder, garlic powder, and a bay leaf. If you do not have a pressure cooker, no problem, just do this on the stove, okay, until your beef is tender. But I'm gonna pressure cook mine for about 15 minutes, and then while that is going on, I'm going to work on the blended ingredients that are gonna go in our stew. I'm going to blend together 1 onion, a sweet pepper, a scotch bonnet, a small tomato, y'all, that has seen better days, some ginger, a little bit of garlic paste. You could also use 5 cloves of garlic, thyme, rosemary, and beef bouillon, and some tomato sauce. Now in my blender, I'm going to place in my tomato sauce first because it's going to help the other ingredients blend without me having to add water. I don't want to add any water because it's going to make it take longer for me to cook my stew. Now my beef is ready. I allowed it to natural pressure release for 10 minutes and then I quick release the rest of the way. Now this broth at the bottom is super delicious because it's really concentrated. I only added about 1/4 cup of water to the pressure cooker. So all the broth you see down there is just the fat and the water that has been released from the beef. Now I need to set this aside to drain and dry a little bit because I'm going to end up frying this beef, and you know, water and oil don't mix, honey. Okay, it's going to be popping, locking, dropping everywhere. So you got to let this beef drain a little bit so that, you know, some of that liquid comes off. Now this set aside because we will use this. If you're doing it on the stove top, just cook it until it's tender but not falling apart. I have about 1/2 cup of coconut oil in my Dutch oven, and I'm going to fry these until they become brown. You don't have to use coconut oil. You can use vegetable oil. You can use any neutral flavored oil if you like it. Now, coconut oil is not neutral flavored, but I don't mind the taste in the stew at all. I would not use olive oil though. Big no-no. It would not taste correct. Now I'm going to turn this over until I get them all brown on every side. I fried mine for about a total of 5 minutes, okay? You do want it to get that nice color like you see here. Once you get that color, you can set this aside on a plate, and then we're going to start on the stew. Into the same oil, I'm going to add 1/2 of a minced onion, and I'm going to fry this for about 2 minutes. I'm going to let it start getting soft, and then we're going in with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Guys, we gotta fry this tomato paste hard. You do not want an acidic taste at all in your stew, so you gotta fry it really well. So this is being fried for about 5 minutes. And then I'm going in with 1/2 of a diced bell pepper for a little bit of sweetness and some curry powder. This is about 1 teaspoon I'm adding here, and the curry powder is gonna bloom in the oil so you get that nice taste in your stew. Fry this for about 3 minutes and then add a little bit of salt just so the veggies will soften, and we're gonna put in the mixture from the blender. Now this mixture from the blender is very, very raw, so you have to really cook out that raw taste. You will know it's ready when the oil starts to separate and pool at the top. So I'm gonna let this cook covered for about 10 minutes on medium-low heat. When I check it, I see that it's bubbling, but the oil is not completely separated. So just give it a stir and then let it sit for about 10 more minutes. You do want to cover it because this tomato stew will be popping, locking, dropping everywhere. Okay, it goes everywhere. You must cover it. Okay, I can see the oil starting to separate, and here you can see that the oil has separated. So I know my stew is ready, and I'm going to go in with that delicious beef broth. Okay, I did not strain off the fat from this because fat is flavor, okay, and who doesn't like flavor? So I leave it, but if you don't like it, you can take the fat out of the beef broth, but don't do it, y'all, because the fat tastes good. Now, while my stew was cooking, I chopped up some cabbage wedges, and you could actually cut it smaller, but I just wanted some big pieces today and some big pieces of carrot. We need veggies in our diet, and so I'm gonna be adding these to the stew to cook until they are soft. Okay, now if you love this recipe so far, please go ahead and give me a thumbs up because it helps me get more recipes out on my channel and it lets me know that you think I'm doing a good job. Okay, now I'm gonna allow this to cook until the cabbage is tender. In total, it took about 15 minutes for my cabbage to be ready. Halfway through, I did try to flip it gently so that the ingredients wouldn't, the cabbage wouldn't, fall apart. I just wanted big pieces this time, but that didn't totally work out, okay? But that's okay. Now, if you want small pieces, certainly feel free to do that, but we just cut up the cabbage pieces on our plates, and I just wanted to make sure the cabbage wasn't too soft. I actually wanted a little bit of crunch. I feel like that's much nicer. Now, when the cabbage was ready, I took it aside and I put it on a plate, and I'm trying to shake a little bit of the stew off of it because we do want the stew. And I'm now putting in my beef. I'm just gonna let the beef cook for about 5 minutes just to get a little flavor from the sauce. And I wanted to add a little bit of salt. Now, you want your stew to be very, very concentrated with flavor. A little bit more flavorful than you would typically like it, a little bit extra seasoned because couscous is very mild. It doesn't have any flavor. So it's going to make your sauce taste bland. So you want to have it a little bit over seasoned. Now I have just a couscous that I got from the Middle Eastern store, and this is an instant couscous, and I'm gonna add 2 cups of it to this amount of stew. Now when I work this in, you're gonna think that it's gonna be way too thick and it's never going to steam. But trust your girl, it will steam and it will actually cook up to be very, very good. So I stirred in about 1 cup at a time and it got super thick. Now this is okay. I could have went ahead and added in about half a cup of water at this stage, but I did not want my couscous to be mushy at all. I also cut off the stove so the heat is not on. Couscous can just cook in the steam of this stew. However, you do want to make sure that there are no white spots. I'm also going to add in the stew that was on the plate from the vegetables. I'm going to just drain that in and mix that in as well. When I finished cooking this couscous, I realized that it was slightly more firm than I liked. So after allowing it to rest for 15 minutes, though it was fluffy and you could certainly eat it at this stage, I wanted it a tad bit softer. So I went in with half a cup of boiling water and I allowed it to sit for about 7 more minutes. Yes, you can correct your couscous if you don't get it as soft as you like. If you want to do about 3 cups of couscous, then add about 1 cup of broth before you add in the couscous to the stew. Now, once it was finished, I plated it up with some of that beef and vegetables, and I also added in a little bit of salad. Guys, this was so yum. Please subscribe if you love this recipe, and I'll see you next time in Kamira's Kitchen. Goodbye.